villages seem like very interesting for me to understand and see how it can be deployed in Africa, in Kenya, hopefully as a test market, and the rest of Africa.
Honored to meet you. Honored to meet you, sir.
Mr. Shah, he's in London from HK Foundation.
Okay, that's Kishore Shah.
That's
Kishore.
Yeah, me. Kishore. Yeah. Hi all. Hi. So I'm not actually part of the foundation. I'm facilitating work with the foundation. Yeah. But obviously originally from Kericho and helping the project to take off. So helping the people in the UK and working with them to work through the foundation so that we get tax benefits.
Okay.
We've got Dinesh Patni, who is part of the HPS Foundation. Dinesh is the first person I've met actually through that foundation. Dinesh, go ahead, tell us what you do.
Yeah, my name is Dinesh Patni. I'm helping Harish Patel with the project which is going at Kericho. Publicizing it and providing background support. Right now. Yeah, thank you.
And noisy Mahmood Merali. Mahmood Merali has been contributing quite a lot today. Mahmood. Hello, Mahmood. I think he needs to.
Hello, hi. So I'm Mahmood. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes. Very nice.
Oh, okay, great. So I work in Nairobi, originally from Kericho. And so even though I haven't visited Kericho in almost 20 years, when anybody asks me where you're from, the first thing that comes to mind is Kericho, of course. I work and live in Nairobi. I'm a psychologist with the Aga Khan University, covering East Africa.
Beautiful.
Apart from that, I've got one more guest who will join later, Shok Sachdev, who I mentioned in the group that he's a recently retired dental surgeon and wants to take up something that would help him see his retirement. So he may be of help. No. All right, we'll call her from the UK side. That's our UK team and Kenya team, of course. Yes, sorry, Mahmood.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. I'm looking forward to hearing what Vinod Bhai has to say and learn a little bit from Anil as well. Thank you.
So thank you. Let me reintroduce you, Dr. Anil Shah. Anil Shah has been my friend for over 25 years. He's one of the top cardiologists in California. He comes from a family of cardiologists. His father was a cardiologist to Jawaharlal Nehru and was a Padma Bhushan. Dr. Shah, in recent years, has taken significant philanthropic work locally, and he has developed this project of smart villages in India, which I kind of gave you a link on Google to kind of familiarize what his work has been. In recent year, during my recent conversation, I began to find out that Dr. Shah has been also working with Berkeley to enhance his project in India. And during our conversation, when I mentioned to him that we have had some grassroots efforts in Kenya to help to build our old school. And he was pretty intrigued by it and said, maybe it could be turn into a larger project. So I said, I will try and invite the principals who are helping this project and seeing how we as an overseas community, an NGO group, could potentially develop a project similar to what you have in India. Because primary we're building the school, but I think the educational component should come also come together in something that a component that really is meaningful to Africans. Like we need to kind of figure out what kind of skill base they need. And I think in these days of digital divide, we could be thinking along those lines as what Dr. Shah is doing. With further ado, I've kind of let Dr. Shah take over and reintroduce himself if I have left anything out. Thank you.
So let me start out. Can somebody allow me to share the screen, please? Can you make me a host?
You can share screen. You're able to share the screen.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So I can talk quite a lot, but I'll try to be succinct about this situation so that we can move to really the right things to do. But I want to give a little bit of introduction of the evolution of what I went through in my gift giving and my heart towards the nation that I was born in. So what has happened is that, of course, I was born in a very prestigious family in Bombay City, got educated in Bombay and came to the United States just as a visit. And then, of course, stayed here for the last 42 years. And mainly I did that for my environment, not that I had any paucity of any opportunities in India. But I came because of the environment. And then, of course, my entire family followed after me. And we are from a family of cardiologists and also industries. And my uncle used to be in the Indira Gandhi's cabinet. So we were, of course, as you can see, the level of my brother was married to the daughter of a member of parliament from the Swatantra party in the past. So, and some of my family members have been very high industrialists in India and, of that nature. But when I came back to, when I was in my internship, I'd never seen the poverty because I always used to be in Malabar Hill in Bombay, if anybody knows that, in Nepean Sea Road. I used to go to medical school and I never saw the real poverty because we, as you know, as we live in a particular society, we know that there is poverty, but we don't understand what really the poverty really what it means. And the first time when I went into my internship in my medical school, I had to go to the slums of Bombay. And one was right near Bombay Central Station, which was between my hospital and or my medical school and my house. And the first day when the gate of that ambulance opened, I saw 50 women with their kids in their arms with flies flying all over their face. That image has been engraved into my mind forever. And I said to everybody, what has these people done that they deserve this? And were it not for me to be born in my family, where would I be? So I was very, very fortunate, but I think we need to do something for humanity. And for the next 35 years, I was practicing cardiology as my profession with great vigor and worked very hard day and night and treated thousands and thousands of patients. And I bought hospitals. I was leading in terms of the business in the medical field. Right here in California, we've got 5 hospitals, which about 700 beds, altogether, and thousands of employees, which I ran as executive chairman of the company. But eventually, of course, I gave up the hospitals, and then I thought to myself that this particular situation of treating humanity is more important than anything else. So I adopted my own village, when I was born in Bombay City, so I did not have any village to go to. But I adopted my father's village, which I had been for the last 55 years. I've not been there. Only as a young kid I'd been there. And one day I just adopted the village, of course, because I was stimulated by my cousin and by my wife's cousin, who also leads a mentor on the road with Narendra Modi, and they do adopt villages too. So I took up my village and I did everything. And I've got many slides on that, which I won't really show you right now for lack of time sometimes. Okay, but if somebody's interested, you know. But what happened is that I built classrooms, I built toilets, I built houses, I built solar, I gave water supply, I gave education, skill centers. Everything was done in one village. And what I find is that what we as charity we do, we give handouts. We feel very happy. It's a self-gratification of a handout. Okay, I'm doing something for the poor people. But what really sustains them is not that handout. It is their jobs. And I really kind of understand what Charles was talking about. It's exactly what we want to do. To really eliminate the poverty through entrepreneurship, skill centers, and creating the businesses that we have to do. So I have adopted about 31 villages in Gujarat. Some through Ekal Vidyalaya, if you're familiar with it. It's a organization that has 100,000 tribal schools in India. And through their village entrepreneurship program, I adopted 30 more villages. But whenever I adopted these villages, I never found that these were being sustained. And without sustainability, there is nothing that you can do, because it just is a handout for that particular day or month and you feel good about it. But at the end of the day, nothing else really happens. And at the end of the day, I think we need to create the villages in such a way that we would like to live there. That really should be the aim. We live in big cities and in big houses and things of that nature, you know. But at the end of the day, do I really want to go and live at my own village so that I can get everything that I want to and have a more peaceful life than being in the city life? So in my quest for these answers, what really happened is that because we're not sustained, I was looking at the reason why it was not sustained. And honestly, poor people don't have dignity. It's the history. I mean, I cannot talk about the history of Kenya, but I can tell you that in India, the 1,000 years of domination by the Mughals and by the British Empire, when you go to the city for the villages, when independence came to India, there were about 16 telephone instruments in the country. There was only radio, which was like a box. There were 8 medical colleges. People did not have, if the people did not have toilets for 75 years after independence, obviously they didn't have it at that time too. So the British Empire, in its quest to say, we gave you the railways and things like that, was all for their own reason to transport the goods to Britain. But in reality, everybody, including the previous governments, have neglected the villages to give them the basic ability to live. And I found that when I put 100 tanks on 100 houses in my village, which were to give them pure water so that they can get running water every day, the tanks were the most beautiful part of the house. The pipes were white. The rest of the things was all dirty. And then the bathrooms were converted into storage houses by them. I mean, it was so unbelievable to me that the extreme poverty was just something that I just could not understand. And I didn't find the answers to it. So finally, in my quest to do that, I came across this smart village movement was created by Berkeley. And it is a different concept completely. And I took it over. I went to India twice. And finally, I took a smart village movement as an independent entity, separated from Berkeley, and became a perpetual partnership with Berkeley Haas. So that is my story in brief. If anybody has any questions, please ask me. But I'll go to the next one. So what we do is, well, why not working? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. So our aim is to transform rural India. Now, my association with Berkeley is a perpetual partnership. It's not a partnership on will. It's a perpetual partnership, and it is worldwide. So we go to all countries. We've got inquiries from China, from Poland, uh, and of course, at Berkeley, if you, I'm sure you're aware, that is one of the foremost public universities in the world. Last year, there are 2 Nobel Prizes. And my association with Berkeley has is with the School of Business, also with the School of Engineering, School of Public Policy and Public Health, and through agriculture with actually UC Davis. So what happens is that we want to really build smart villages through digital technologies and open innovation. And of course, to do co-innovation, collaboration, empowerment, and eventually increase the happiness of the villagers in India. So what is the model? The Molex is a triple helix model. So what happens is that without the government support, nothing can happen. The government has to be very, very important that they come with it. So what UC Berkeley does is UC Berkeley's reach and research, uh, and of course there were 300 to 400 faculty members. And by the way, Janet Yellen, who's the U.S. Treasury Secretary, was was an alumnus of UC Berkeley. The person was dealing with me, Kathleen Wolfram. She's assistant secretary in climate policy, and she's gone to Washington, D.C. And I used to talk to her weekly. And so you got the kind of people who have the reach and who have the understanding and the ability to really move the people around. And I needed a very good partner to really make the change. And that's where I found UC Berkeley to do it. And they had a smart grid movement of their own, but they're not able to really get it off the ground properly. So what we do is we go to the state government or the central government, and we talk to them and say, okay, government, I would like to. So we went to the state of Meghalaya in Northeast India. We went to Arunachal Pradesh, which is on the border of China, Andhra Pradesh in East India, and now soon to be Gujarat. So what we do is go to the government has to pay us. It has to pay us about, about $1 million. And engagement with UC Berkeley for $500,000 for 5 years, where they put their entire research and their entire technology and as a research project. They're academics, they're on the ground. And they already have those influences with different companies who come to them, and therefore they participate to that extent. And then the government also engages a smart village movement and pays them through a budget that comes across. The budget is, of course, not enough to really cover what we do, but we try to do at least 50 villages to be smart as a pilot. And we bring the businesses. And the businesses, what they do is that and the businesses are fantastic businesses. We've got partnerships with IBM, with Microsoft, Salesforce, NASA, NVIDIA, Amazon, Tata's Geo, for example. And I know some of these people who are the CTOs or the CEOs in India of foreign companies like Microsoft in India. I deal with the CEOs and the government liaisons on a continuous basis. So what happens is that it makes me help to really change the society within the villages. So in Meghalaya, for example, so let me go through this. So for example, so we've got a platform here, and the platform is our own platform, which is a smart management movement platform. And we bring companies, and these companies, as you can see here below, if they're in small handwriting, but they come and they give the grand challenge. We put the grand challenges, okay, we don't have enough sanitation or water. I mean, you won't believe this, but in the state of Meghalaya, which is the largest rainfall in the world, they have a problem of getting fresh water for drinking. Now, how can somebody imagine that How can a society be like this, that the people can't even collect their own water to drink on a continuous basis? But that is what the state has been so far. And people have been trying to change it, but they cannot change it. Because they say, oh, we would like to do that, but how do we do it? Where is the money? How can we create that happen? So our job really is to create the solutions through businesses to create the entrepreneurship and the businesses to be there. So let me talk to you about an example in Meghalaya, what we do. So right now I've got about 7 full-time employees on the ground, and these employees are IIT graduates or graduates from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and people who are really extremely intelligent and hardworking, and whose heart is in social entrepreneurship. The 7 fellows that we call them, they appoint ambassadors and interns on the ground. And in each village, we are now going where we have, each village has a person who goes to the village and talks to every man who wants to do a business or wants to attain a skill. And a woman who goes and participates in the social part of it so that they can say what are the problems on the ground in terms of sanitation, water, hygiene, cleanliness, nutrition, health, etc. So we do all those kind of different things. Now, what happens is that with this, we are able to transform the entire society. That is the aim. And we don't give any handouts. We don't give any kind of people to say, okay, this is free for you. We're going to give you one. No. We want to make sure that we create the business. Within that, if you want to donate money, that's fine, no problem. And I do that all the time. But my job is to transform and to make sure that we transform society over a period of time. And that's what we do. So we do, in a platform, of course, we have problem solving, technology scouting, knowledge accumulation, knowledge dissemination, business model innovation. We have use cases from Harvard that we put it on the ground. Our use cases are in Harvard Business Review, etc. We learn from failures and we change them very rapidly. Fail fast, learn fast. Ecosystem formation, elimination of high costs, reduce the risk, and speed to market. So UC Berkeley and Smart Village Movement responsibilities are to create the data collection and service to establish village pain points. Then we do capacity building and train and equip local teams. We do technology scouting and facilitate pilots. Then we introduce market linkages and corporate networks. We do business model formulation for scaling and business ecosystem formulation for sustainability. So what happens is that we transfer the funds for smooth operation from the government. Okay, that's the government has to do, which I talked about earlier. Then we have a district collector implementation team comprised of various departments. We have frequent meetings with the chief minister. So what happened in all these 3 states, the chief ministers or their chief secretaries came to Berkeley and participated in a 2-day conference. They met with the people, they signed an MOU, they transferred the funds initially to Berkeley only. And then we start the process, and we have got right now in April 15th, for example, we've got 200 students from Berkeley as well as from the IITs in Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, Bombay, Delhi University, all over the country. We are getting students to participate in understanding open innovation, co-innovation, and the projects are given where we give the pain points of the villagers and we ask the students to find solutions. There are mentors on the
video.
Hello?
Video start video
Can you, Surendra, can we mute you? Yeah, okay. Sorry for the interruption. Let's move on, Dr. Shah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So, and then of course we have meetings with the chief minister. So we went to Guwahati in Assam and we went to Itanagar in
So I think somebody is joining from Kenya who is.
everybody can mute themselves. Everybody can mute themselves so that we can have a conversation. But if it is not something that you want to listen, please let me know.
What I'll do is, Dr. Shah, I'll mute everybody.
Okay.
And then
Thank you. Okay, so anyway, so then we meet the chief minister and district collectors. We give a tendering process for the pilot startups. We support the pilots. Sometimes we pay money for them through the government. And there's a nodal department officer who serves from the government, who serves as a person who coordinates all these facilities and also talks about saying, oh, we do not want this particular company to come in because of the following reasons. So they, of course, are in control at the end of the day. And of course, we focus in agriculture, healthcare, education. So let me go through each one of them as an example. For example, agriculture, we go and create farmer development corporations. We right now have in Meghalaya, Tata, which is creating honey as well as bees. In Andhra Pradesh, we have got a tremendous amount of agricultural companies that are going to double or triple their farm. Actually, agriculture is a very major focus in Andhra Pradesh. In healthcare, we have not just put in a polyclinic in the villages. And we also have talked to Apollo to put 5 different clinics there, over 50 villages, which with telemedicine and with doctors and everything. And Meghalaya is the only state in the country where they have got their own state health insurance, which we did not know. Now, lately, we've been talking about creating a virtual assistant healthcare by which each household can get, because right now, smartphones are quite prevalent in India, and each particular smartphone can dial a number, and they can go to a virtual assistant, talk to them. And the way it is done through artificial intelligence is that they've got 7,000 diagnoses which can be put together. And if you go to the virtual assistant and say, okay, you know what, I've got joint pain today. So the assistant can ask you, do you have rash? Do you have fever? Do you have anything of that nature? And what happens is that with that, there is a answer. And finally, the virtual assistant can say, well, you need to go to a health clinic right now, but let me try to connect you to a telemedicine, to a healthcare provider, so that the healthcare provider can give you the answers to what you need. So what happens is the cycle of healthcare, where sometimes it takes weeks and months to create diagnoses, is now really done in a few days, and the tests are done very rapidly. So we are putting vans of radiology and imaging studies onto the villages. So that's what we do. So this is just an example of what we do in the healthcare. In education, we've got now a platform by which we give education to the villages, and education is available for many universities. But our job is to create a professional development and to give them internships. So we just signed up with IBM, 150 students, to learn Python, digital technologies, cloud computing, deep learning, machine learning, data-driven education, and 150 jobs are waiting for them. So we also have people in Salesforce, which they require 500,000 jobs in India, and we've tried out with Salesforce too. So we've got Microsoft, Salesforce, IBM, Adobe, Amazon, Google, all of these companies participate with us to do the different things that we have to do. With energy, we've got, of course, solar power. We can create statewide solar power. We can create microgrids and different things. And of course, entrepreneurship and livelihood is very important. And people are coming up with houses and with tailoring and with skills, etc., which we continuously try to develop. Water and sanitation is being developed, and well, nothing in safety and security as yet. And transportation, of course, which is also not happening because that's a government role. We don't want to take up government's role, but if they want us to do something, we can do. Oh, in transport, we did one thing. In Meghalaya, we put up drones to really transport the vaccinations and the medications on the mountains of Meghalaya, because these villages are very, very remote. So as we speak, there's a company in India which creates the drones, and the drones are being done to deliver medications to remote villages. All these are actually made on a B2C level, not a B2G level. The government will participate through companies, but they will try to do only through companies and entrepreneurship. And we want to develop entrepreneurs on the ground. So we have this holistic system, as we talked about. There are different things that we do, agriculture, healthcare, education, water, housing, safety, security, logistics, transportation. The center of this is energy and connectivity. And you can see the companies that we deal with: Geo, Tata Power, NL, Indian Oil, Ericsson, Heige, Atom, Signy. And here we can see, Microsoft. So all these are different companies. And we've got 75 companies right now that have partnered with us in terms of providing solutions on the ground. Now, one can ask, what is the interest of the companies to do that? Well, the interest is the following. One is that they are responsible for corporate social responsibility. That's number one. And number two, with this, they are able to get introduced to the government. They can show the pilot to the government, and then the government can then take it from there. We are not in a controlling situation of what they should do in the future. Our job is only to bring in to light what people can do, what government can do, what entrepreneurs can do, and teach the government what they could do. And of course, the companies are there to really continuously try to engage with them, know them. I mean, so amazing that sometimes, even though they're big corporations, they don't know the government people. They don't know where to go. They do these things, they put the tender processes, but they don't know the government employees or the high government people in a personal level. But this makes that happen. So we got, of course, we got different things like patient's journey, So we start from prevention, access, diagnosis, hospitalization, service and recovery. And we got all these different companies that have been put together in the healthcare part of it. We've got in a farmer's journey, the same thing that we do with different companies. You can see Amazon and Fresh and Big Hat and all these different companies that are there. Johnson Controls, Me Buddy, it's like a mini Amazon in India right now. In education, we of course go to Google and again Amazon, Khan Academy, VMware, Dell. Dell wants to we know them personally. NVIDIA is part of us. Adobe is part of us. Microsoft part of us. Zero Code we are on the ground. So all these companies are participating with us in different ways. Now, obviously, there are hurdles on the way. It's not that tomorrow morning we say yes, please come on, and it happens tomorrow just like that. They all have their own aims and business processes, which we have to come together with. But usually they do that. But because we want to do nationwide, we've got a tremendous scale of what we can do. And therefore, the transformation of 600,000 villages is our aim, so that the GDP of the country increases by threefold. So that India becomes, at the end of the day, a superpower, not because of as a slogan, but in reality. Because without the villages developing, where 700 million people live, India can never transform itself to be a true global leader. So here we got a household journey, the same thing we do. Now, for example, Hero Cycles is coming up with the bicycles for tourism. Geo gave us connectivity to all the villages. We got 32 villages now with 4G. The remaining are 2G or 3G, and we're trying to, they're very remote. There's a cost behind it, and the government is talking to them. Indian Oil, instead of being Indian Oil, they want to give solar. Signy creates these small microgrids. Tata Power also is participating with us. I mean, there's so many companies. Atom actually creates the solar roofs. The solar roofs in India, which are there. So there are all kinds of companies come to. Kabadiwala is actually a waste management company that takes away the waste from the villages to make them clean. So we do the research phase, the piloting phase, and then the scaling phase. And therefore, all these things, research were done by UC Berkeley. But of course, Smart Grid Movement then participates in it through their own fellows. All these companies do the pivot, and then finally, hopefully, they do the scaling to take care of the whole state. As a matter of fact, what has happened is that 2 weeks ago, the state government told us that please do more districts in Meghalaya, and they wanted us to go to the chief minister's constituency because he's now fighting for elections in 18 months. So he wants to show what can be done. So for example, in Meghalaya, we got 25 companies on the ground. We got a Salesforce that has given us a computer lab in a tribal village. They donated their thing. They put about 25 lakhs rupees, about $30,000 or so, $35,000. But they gave the thing, and they are going to run it for 2 years. And we had to just have to give them the space, so which we did. We have got Hero Cycles giving us the putting up the bicycles with the entrepreneurship, so that in the tourism part of it, people can go for, tourism on their own electric bikes. So things like that are already happening in the village at the present time. I've gone through this right now. So, of course, SVM team is there, platform is there, Berkeley House is there, other universities we've got, corporate startups. And of course, there is from the office of the government, everybody comes together. And Smart Bridge movement is the center of the whole thing. Everything at the end of the day comes to Smart Bridge movement, which I lead. So then we do the pivoting phase, as we talked about. We do the scaling phase. And of course, we go and meet with the government. I am sitting here right now with the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, and here the Chief Secretary is there. All the companies have come together. They all participate in it, and everybody is there. So we just and these are the villages that we've taken over. These are all the villages in the map. It is part of this East Khasi Hills district, the whole state of Meghalaya. And we create clusters, and we try to improve the things. So these are the companies that we participate in right now. Salesforce, Apollo, Grameen with polyclinic centers, MeBuddy is like a mini Amazon, giving up goods to the farmers who are remote. They don't have time to go to the cities, and it is a mini Amazon. It's 10% more money, but they save the whole day from going anywhere. And eFresh is the farmer development corporations. They do as a service. We just signed up for 1,000 farmers to increase the farm production by 100% more. Tata Chemicals doing honey and black rice, and Recycle is the waste collection company. This is in Arunachal Pradesh that we did different verticals. The project highlights in terms of solar, and now this was, of course, this is the place where Salesforce is coming. And I mean, I don't have the picture right now of Grameen, but it looks very nice, where they created the polyclinics. Here is also rural women in self-employment. We teach them how to do sewing, and they then make designs. They've got contracts with clothes manufacturers, and been a huge success. This is the German company, Hella. We created 600 automobile jobs, and they do automobile repair. And this guy here, Michael, he is my state director for Andhra Pradesh. So he's talking to them, to the students. And of course, Hella does it on his own. It's a German company. So 600 jobs in a cluster of villages makes a huge impact, tremendous impact, in terms of the entire ecosystem of the whole village. So these are our impacts so far. Microsoft, 2,000 involved in organic crops, 56 businesses, agriculture, so many users we got, agreements. All these are different Tech Mahindra. You can see all these different companies which have come together to create the entrepreneurship. And then, of course, we've got the Smart Bridge University through education that we are doing it. And we've got now, as I was talking about, IBM just signed up last week with us for 150 students. So these are knowledge partners, we work with many knowledge partners, especially the Stockholm School of Economics and University of Cambridge people came with us to Meghalaya also. Lancaster University is in India by itself, and we work with all the IITs in India. And I am in Visakhapatnam as well as Ahmedabad. This triple IIT is in Guwahati. So their students and the faculty come together. And of course, these are all the corporate partners that we've got. All of them participate in one way or the other, and they help us out. And many of these directors have become personal friends now. So it's a question of just talking on the phone and calling them up and trying to create a pilot so that they can go to the next stage. My relations with Berkeley has matured. So I just have just donated with them $1 million right now to Berkeley. And So we are, of course, partnering with Dr. Shah's Smart Grid Movement. And so I'm now known as the Builder of Berkeley, the highest and most prominent supporters for the campus. And proud to do that, And this is of course, the letter from the chancellor of the university, welcoming me and creating the perpetual partnership that we want. That's really in brief what I wanted to talk about. And of course, I've got other things too, which I used to do in my own village, and I can go through these, how I used to clean villages and which were bad before, and now they're so clean. And this is what I did before, but never got sustained. Look, this is myself in some villages with toilets, and here I built all the toilets for the people, and give them tractors to clean the villages out, and give them baskets. And here is the panchayat person, give each and every house buckets to put the waste and the dry waste and the collection of different kinds, put waterworks together, created houses, created smart classrooms. This is me here, and created some tailoring, and we give pickles to cows to increase production by 20% of milk, and the vertical farming, and smart computer systems and smart students, and the President Kalam's library, which is donated by President Kalam Foundation for free, solar power, your healthcare checkup. This is the only village in the world, which I know, where 18 people have committed to give kidneys for kidney transplantation. So like Angadan, Mahadan, Angadan means organ donation is the greatest gift of all. And of course, all the people come together and they are participating with us so that we can really make the transformation that is required to be done. And of course, there is a panchayat guy who's, he's a sarpanch giving me certification of honor, and the students getting we can donate even the things for kids to play during school time. And here are my tanks that I gave that I was talking about. Look at that, the tank, the smart initiative, and the pipes go there, and you see the backgrounds and things of that nature, and look at the houses, So you can see what is. And of course, we also give geysers to some families that they wanted. And of course, Skills Center for Conversation English. And there was a big mad rush for this, in the village. Anyway, that's my story. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Anil Bhai, I think, you even educated me more than I knew what you're doing, amazing work, as a colleague of mine who I've known for last 25 years, I've known his family, I've known his father, tremendous. And I want to kind of put...
Can I say a few things before you, okay.
Yes.
So my relationship with Berkeley is perpetual. What I want you to think is create a society by which you can potentially move there to live. That is true transformation. What everybody does, creating schools and creating the food, and is fantastic. Of course, it's laudable, very, very laudable, appreciated highly. But we need to go to the next step.
Sure.
And Smart Village Movement is ready to help in that direction to create the things in your Karicho or wherever it may be that you think is the right place to go. But we can bring the companies to you, create the research, bring the companies. We can bring Gates Foundation, we can bring all foundations to you, and make the changes that you want to do. That is really my story that I would like to really tell you, that we are available to you to create that if you want to do that.
Anil Bhai, I'll interrupt you with a little joke in between. For several years, in a lot of programs, we have built schools, we've built a lot of universities and everything, but that doesn't amount to help the community. In this situation, a person had 4 kids. He trained first as a doctor, another one became an engineer, another one became an attorney, and the 4th one was a thief. So he called his friend, he says, I had a big farm, I educated my son who is an attorney, another is a doctor, another is an engineer, and this other guy is a thief, So his friend told him, he says, kick the thief out. He said, thief is the one who is supporting the whole community, whole of the family. Rest of them are unemployed. The moral of the story is that we want to build skills that are for the future. You may build skills or you may train people that are useless at the end, or too many of them. So I think in a cohesive way, especially in this day and age, when we have centers of learning like Berkeley, centers of learning like in UK, this thing, to seeing what are the skills of the future that we can impart them to the local communities that would be useful to them to become perpetually successful. Anyway, what I want to do is open up for discussion. Charles, do you want to say something?
Yes, I am moved. I'm very moved because this is there's words like transformational that are thrown around casually, but this truly has transformative power, because as Dr. Shah says, if you can harness the potential of villages and transform them, because right now, even in the United States, there's migration from rural to urban. And the primary reason for the migration is that at the village level, you're not able to provide the utilities. Today's internet is utility, electricity is utility, water is utility. And if you can provide those utilities in a location, then it means that today's work and learning can continue. And even now with COVID, we've seen the potential of people being able to work remotely. And so if you can take these to the village, one. But I think more importantly, there's the mindset, because you're going to a location that has existed from millennia. And so there's a preset mindset. Just as the doctor was pointing out, you can go in and install the toilet or the tank, but if the individual or if the mindset has not shifted, then the toilet will be converted into storage and they'll continue using outside. So that is quite interesting. But I think the other part also is that if you look at any community, there is multiple stakeholders that are involved in service delivery, if you will. And the whole reason that governments and political movements exist is to transform the human condition. And here we have an audacious proposition that we have, in fact, an organization that has developed a model that has been transformative. And so my sense is that the big task here is a communication job, that if the story could be told very clearly and very succinctly and demonstrably, where like we saw the pictures of before and after, and the lessons learned, and then be able to develop prototypes that are regional specific. By that I mean that if you look at certain parts of India or even other parts of Africa, that the exact same model, I mean, the underlying thesis remains valid, but the priorities might shift a little bit. And I think that's a part that I found quite fascinating, that it's a way of thinking, a way of modeling. And then you've got all these additional resources that can be deployed. But of course, then the big question is that the reason we're here is we're from Africa, and we are hoping that Kenya can stand up a pilot which can demonstrate its efficacy in any part of the world. And we are prayerful that Kenya would be the next country outside of India where this can be demonstrated. And even within Kenya, that location then becomes a pilot that other parts of Kenya can learn from, and other parts of Africa can learn from. So if this were possible, then I think within our lifetime, we could have actually been witness to being a part of a transformative effort. And if that were possible, I can't think of anything that would be more fulfilling than being a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. I hope everybody's taking some notes and, like trying to see how this thing could potentially be implemented in Africa. What I'll do is I'll pass it on to my sister, who will kind of see the response from the crowd, from the team that she has got from Kenya, who are working on this school project. If there is any room for collaboration, because at present we're just building the school. But I think there's much larger vision could be established from there.
So every village, from my village, for example, my dad came out, as you know, became a cardiologist on the highest level in India, and my uncle who became on Indira Gandhi's cabinet. So villages do create very intelligent people, but because of the lack of opportunities, as Shaz was saying, they move out into the cities. So today, for example, we've identified in my state, in my village, like Gabat, 600 people. Okay. Now, some of these people created the original founders of Asian Paints, for example, was there. They move out of cities, then they don't care about the village. It's gone. They just visit the village because they have to meet with the people. Hello, how are you? Stay there for 5-10 days if they ever have to. And as the years have gone by, they have forgotten the villages and they stayed in the cities. So the transformation of the village has to happen on the ground. And unless you change the village to an extent, I mean, I can't imagine what's going to happen to these cities in the next 20 years. Bombay right now has got 20-25 million people, last count. It's just expanding like nobody's business. But at the end of the day, these villages go to the cities. The kids go there when they graduate from the high school. And then they go into slums to live there. They get transformed into criminals because there are always some criminals there. And the bootlegging and the drugs and everything stuff. I mean, this is so bad, So I think what we have to do is we have to be thinkers of transforming society rather than just creating. I'm not going to say what is bad is wrong. Actually, I was giving a keynote address to the Ekal Vidyalaya Foundation in San Francisco. And I asked everybody there, they were talking about this thing. I said, well, okay, the 150 people here in your annual senior level meet, how many of you have been ready to go back to your village? And not one hand went up. So yes, we do everything for the villages, but not one hand went up. Well, if in America we say, how many of you want to go back to your suburbs? All 150 hands will go up. That's the difference. That's the difference.
Response, Deepika?
I think there's a lot to take in. Completely gobsmacked by the amount of work that's been gone on. Can I just ask, what time scale have you been working on this for, Anil? Why?
So I'm glad that you asked that question. Well, I took over the Smart Village movement in January of last year. So I went in December, and of course I was doing this Smart Village, my own things in Gujarat, but I took it over in December of 19. I went there to India. I took it over in January and February of last year before COVID, and I came here, and I've been working ever since. But my rise and the implementation has been just dramatic. And Berkeley could not do anything as far as implementation is concerned. It was just a talk on the educational side, and everybody's full-time and they all in their own situation. But this requires a different kind of an attitude. So yes, the organization, and that's one of the reasons why every day. I mean, last night I was in a meeting with a virtual assistant for medicine, a big company, wanting to do it. IBM wants to do it, Microsoft wants to do it. So these are the kind of things that are truly transformative. People want to give. People don't know where to give. That's a problem. I'm talking big corporations and big businesses, where to give. And of course, I've got individuals who now donate to me all the time. I do this completely on a voluntary basis. I don't take any salary. I pay money from my own funds. I just donate, donate, and donate. I travel at my own cost. But that is the commitment that I've got to put into the situation. Berkeley, of course, is now telling me that please change your model so that you can charge the companies for what you are doing for them because they're getting a free ride. And I say, well, it's not a free ride. As long as the companies come in and transform society, I really don't mind. At the end of the day, what am I going to take myself with? I've got enough money really to live. If I can donate $1 million probably every year, why do I worry about really charging any money to anybody? It's okay. I don't have any problem with that. So anyway, that is. I'm not saying that everybody should follow the same example, but digital technologies and Zoom meetings. I'm on Zoom meetings at least 5 times a day. And Rebecca is here. Rebecca, can you just talk about what you do and how you do take care of it? She's my right-hand person for the last 20 years in my office and practice, but she's there, right? She's still here or no? Rebecca,
I am. Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi there, Rebecca.
Hi. Basically, my role in Smart Village Movement is just to assist Dr. Shah, making sure that, he keeps everybody, satisfied with everything, arrange meetings for him and all the companies. I help him with some of the accounting. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So can I just ask Anil again, what other manpower do you have apart from Rebecca?
No, so we've got volunteers in Los Angeles who creates the IT. I pay about 200,000 rupees to a outfit in Ahmedabad to create a platform. And we have a weekly meeting on the platform. The platform was started by UC Berkeley students. Anybody could connect to it. There's no security. So I mean, it took us about 3 months to get the codes from the students. It was so amazing. And finally, of course, now we've got a very nice platform, I think. It's, of course, it's continues to be developed. And we have evolution going on a continuous basis. So there were no students initially, only a few students were to participate. But because of our activities now, the first time 200 students will come on a course on May 1st. So and by the way, so they're $250 to get a UC Berkeley extension certification, and that money doesn't come to Smart Village Movement, it goes to them. But so we got and then we got, as I said, we got each state director. We got one state director in Ahmedabad, a state director in Andhra Pradesh, and a state director in Meghalaya. The work in Arunachal Pradesh has stopped right now because of some political issues within the state. And then we've got employees under them. We got 7 people in Andhra Pradesh. We got 7 in Meghalaya, which are these are full-time employees who are very educated. Many of these people have had the businesses and they quit and come back to help the villages. And many of them are just young people who want to create rural entrepreneurship as their careers. So they are fellows from IITs and all and we pay them about pretty good. I pay them about 8 to 9 lakhs rupees a year. For India, it's a pretty good number. So we get very, very good quality people to come and work for us. I've never heard anybody complain to me for money. I said, don't worry money, just make sure that you create the job done. So I'm concerned, do the job done and everything else will come into the picture. I mean, we can't be overzealous about it. But at the same time, the focus is to transform society, not to focus on the nitty-gritty of money here and there. I mean, for example, every day Rebecca sends out money from the government budget that we've got to the companies. I mean, even Tata would ask me yesterday, oh, can you please pay me 40,000 rupees to us for creating a water work, Okay, here's your 40,000 rupees, we just send it to them overnight. the money is transformed so quickly that people are amazed at how quickly we send the money out to them, and then they start working, because that really creates the trust that we are just not talking, but we are making things happen. But government gives us money upfront. This money is now, this money, of course, is not given to us for that, but we have to build them. And then, of course, we get donations too. Not all money comes from government, so we pay money from our own pockets. It's okay, I mean, it's all right, because the aim is to transform society, not to really try to do business.
Do you think, Kishore, you have some experience in international sort of charitable work? What do you think of this?
Yeah, I'm Anil, I'm very, very impressed. I mean, superb to meet you. As a family, we've been very much involved in India, Cambodia, Kenya, Vietnam, but all has been education led, right? So that's what, as a family, we've been doing. And we've always believed, because as kids, when we were in Kericho, we had a great primary education, but very little to go forward to, right? So we wanted to give kids that opportunity, kids from very difficult positions and situations. We started with basically orphans and then built it up. But really, in India, in Cambodia, I mean, in very, very difficult position, like you showed, no toilets, no water, I mean, the living conditions were beyond belief, right? And as you said, to go and see them, to see and understand that is quite difficult. We can never comprehend how we live today, right? And in my case, unlike you, I only go there once or twice a year, see it, come back, we forget about it. We live in a society, we forget. We almost do not think about it unless we see pictures or videos of what we've taken. And what you've today highlighted and shown is education, yes, it's important, but what we build around it, right? And how we get sustainability, how we get the village, the town to act and react, and so that the people stay there. People don't migrate outside. We build a society. It's just a phenomenon. I mean, for me, it's opened my mind in a very different way. And I hope amongst us and all of us, we can think that way and try and see how we can adopt it in the way you've structured it, the way you've done it. I mean, my mind boggles. So I'm not sure how I could even start thinking of the next stage of what to do or how to do it. But certainly, my hat's off to you. That's all I can say. I'd love to take time and learn more.
I mean, we are open anytime you want anything. I mean, we are just a very, very open society, and I'm always willing to talk about it. I mean, my wife's nephew, my wife's brother's son is getting married today, but I still think that this is so important to me that I spend my time in this. Because COVID, it's only an evening reception, so it's not going to shirk my responsibilities. But still, I mean, this is what it is. But I mean, I think that. As I say, the formula is created. It's very easy. I think what you have to do is go to the government and get the president or the chief minister of a state or a high level district person really get excited about it. And then they have to, in order to put the commitment, they need to put the money upfront, because that's the only way that the government is going to listen. When they put the money out there, okay, we are putting money, we better take care of it, because they have to be accountable for the money to somebody higher up or on the side, the thing. And when they put up the money, then we can transform the villages. We're not asking for a lot. Can you imagine 50 villages, we're going to put $500,000 is nothing, and it's 10 grand a village. It's nothing. But we bring 75 companies together, and that money is being used for ourselves. It's being used to pay the fellows and pay the employees and things of that nature. And we get donations from people. People give donations all the time. And I mean, I got many people now interested in what is it? Actually, I was supposed to talk to on Monday to your, I forget the name right now, but Punjabi gentleman in London. He's worth in a construction company. He's worth multi-billion dollars. 46-year-old guy. I forget the name right now, but anyway, so they are looking at it. People want to really participate in the situation because everybody wants to transform society. But you're talking about example of what my dad talking about example. They get educated and they go to a city. That's what you did. You educated and then you migrated. Now, if you had
Yeah.
the opportunity in your own village, maybe you would not have migrated.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you'll be so happy within your own village that you didn't have to create the new friends and people. But what happened is the atmosphere, the new atmosphere excited you. Oh my God, such a great transformation. But now do you realize how many people you kept behind? We all did. So what we need to do is that where we come from needs to change. So everybody gets that opportunity. But we don't want all of them to flee to the cities, It'll be a disaster
Yeah.
for all of us.
We've
Now-
got Mahmood Merali, he's in Kenya, and
Mhm.
obviously, Charles, you can sort of have a little link up, the two of you. Charles, you've got government connections, haven't you, in Kenya?
Yes, the way Kenya in the last decade has approached this problem is through the word called devolution. At the time we were growing up, during the heyday, the central government was controlled the entire country. But what happened is that resources were not being evenly distributed. So the big thing that has happened in the recent past is the idea of devolution. And we now have county governments. So when you want to implement anything in Kenya, you go to the county because each county has a governor, has a parliament, has a minister in charge of the function. And so what I'd be, Dr. Shah, trying to figure out is who's a person I could spend a bit of time with and model this out so that when I sit with a governor, I can explain to him what the benefits are and what the transformative impact has been. Take one or two examples in India and demonstrate how this has the socioeconomic impact in terms of measurable outcomes that that have been in the best case situation and perhaps in the worst case situation, and what worked and what didn't work. And so on a minimum level in software development, we talk about something called MVP, minimum viable product, what that would look like and what it would take in terms of legal commitment, financial commitment, and then also manpower. Would they need to stand up an executive at the county level that would be the point person? And then what kind of structure, legal structure would need to be in place to facilitate any technology transfer or any performance indicator, those kinds of things that would then serve as a very clear path of how the process would be, how the service or the project will be delivered from concept through development and ultimate deployment and completion, and if there's any subsequent iterations that come after the initial stage. So it's kind of hard to figure out that, because I can think of several governors who would be very interested and would be quite excited. But of course, it then comes back to what does this take to do in their part? What kind of commitment, or even maybe a different way of looking at it, what are the most ideal parameters that you found? Because I suspect in some places you've gone, it's not had the same level of, it's not worked out as intended, but in some places it's gone quite well. Why, what was present in that cohort of locations that performed well and those ones that didn't? And you can front load that, then I think we're likely to have much better outcome for a pilot, which then would give us a good entry point to propagate this in other parts of the country and hopefully the continent as well.
Well, the question,
let me interrupt you. I think maybe as we talk about this thing, we could probably set up some steps. Dr. Shah, Charles, if you can kind of get the key people in the government that you know, maybe to the local level, and develop some kind of a communication that would let them know what.
Well, Mbaito Foundation is doing that already. The organization I represent works for Machakos County, Makueni County, and Kitui County. That's what Mbaito Foundation is. It is an organization that is doing service delivery in Machakos County, Makueni County, and Kitui County. And everything we do, we work in collaboration with the government. We're doing water development. We have 4 pillars. And so this is a thing that kind of piqued my attention because we had a certain concept when we stood this up. So what Mbaito Foundation is, it's a channel through where members of the Kamba community in diaspora, we're very successful. Instead of dispersing funds back home in bits and pieces, we target specific projects in the 4 areas. But you see what Dr. Shah is proposing is a model that's already been proven. So we're not having to reinvent the wheel. So we already have a foundation in place. It's a legal 501c3 in the United States, and it has a counterparty in the 3 counties. And we have our points of contact for each function that we're doing. So these are people who we talk to on a daily basis. The question is, I'll sit with the governor, Mutua. I can call him, he can come and join us on a conference call.
Mutua is
ask the basic questions as to, great, I like the idea, what next? What do you need from my side?
So let me just address that to a certain extent. The impact that we have created is so much that now the chief minister and the secretary are saying that the elections can be affected by us. Okay, not because we've got a political power to tell people, but what the people feel is the government is doing these things for them. And therefore what's happening is that the chief minister is asking us to do it in his constituency so that he can show what a phenomenal progress he's making. Now, of course, the chief minister was from Wharton. He was an educated person in Wharton. So he is a very educated person. And that's why he came to Berkeley to get this thing, transformation done. But the thing is that the effect is so great. Now, for example, we are now working, there's a lot of arsenic on the ground in Northeast India. It affects 120 million people. And we've got it, the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory in California, to have a technology that can take away arsenic from the groundwater. So these are the kind of transformative changes. It's not only the living part of it. Now, for example, we are looking for a paint company in India in the 50 villages to paint the houses. I mean, if you've been to Spain, you'll see how beautiful the villages are. And the point is that it's just simple whitewash of the villages in the front of the house that makes them so clean and nice. The question is this, that how do you attract tourism to a country which can transform an economy for people to continue to live there? And one of the models is, of course, to have the clean villages. So just as I showed you, we create the villages up, but they don't sustain themselves unless people are there who want to really keep it that way. But one of the things that we are going to do is all the 50 villages, we are going to give them either whitewash or any color that they want so that the villages look beautiful. Even though they may be poor, but they look beautiful. Now, we are now talking to a company known as Earthship. You can probably Google them, Earthship. And Earthship is coming now to India, where they are completely self-independent. They have solar power. They have only 7 inches of rainfall is required. They grow their own food. No air conditioning is required because, and they use tires and dirt to make walls, so that there is so dirt is taken away, rather than keeping it in, on the streets. So these are kind of transformative technologies. I mean, I've got so many technologies of that nature. I mean, I can't just stop talking.
Yeah.
Every company has something like that. But still, but just I mean, I think we are ready to create that impetus as a smart village movement. So local people are employed, local state directors are created. The local people are the fellows. Nobody comes from outside to do it except for one person who may want to just make sure that everything runs fine. But we create the daily conversations so that there is a trust, and the trust is purely based, because once the intention is appropriate, nobody worries about it.
Thank you, Anil Bhai. Thank you so much. I just want to have people who have been present on this meeting to have a few words. Mahmood, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Anirbhai. This is really an eye opener. And being in Kenya, I actually live in a very rural setting outside of Nairobi. So the problems that you're talking about are very real, even for where I live. Uh, there's just a thought that keeps coming to me. And when you're doing these projects, how do you manage two aspects? One is the accountability of what you're giving to make sure that it goes in the right place, right direction, with the right expected benefits coming out. That's one. And the second one is what happens to the sustainability of these projects? When you talk about, say, painting, for example, like, the last example that you give, I'm just trying to think 3 years down the line when it needs another coat of paint, is the foundation going to come forward? Or is, because you see, the the focus here does not feel, correct me if I'm wrong, it does not feel like it is aimed totally at poverty eradication. It feels like it's improving a standard of living. It feels like it's improving the quality of life. But when you give somebody food to eat today and then tomorrow it's not there, we go back a couple of steps again. So I'm struggling a little bit with trying to marry the two, the projects and the sustainability stroke accountability of it. Maybe if you could give us
I'm happy.
a couple of pointers here.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So what happens is that in every village we appoint a person, a man and a woman. A man is going there for 120 days to see if anybody wants to start a particular business or a skill. So we create that kind of a survey, and then we got these 75 to 100 companies that we talk to, and the companies are growing every day. Now, for example, we had a farmer-driven corporation where 1,000 farmers came together. It's going to cost about 1.5 crores of rupees, over the next 2 years, but they'll increase the GDP by to double. They create market linkages and things of that nature. So what happens is that the income of the people increase, the poverty decreases. Because people, when they have money, they spend in their own homes, they spend in their own education to a better life for themselves. The reason why there is no market for them is because they can't afford it. That's the problem. So when 1,000 farmers or when we 600 people who learn how to do repair automobiles get their life there. Now, for example, the Python that we are going to create training for IBM, IBM tells me that these people who create the courses will get $100,000 plus in income in a Western country. Now, India, of course, is required because there's a lot of technology going on. India has transformed itself like tremendously over the last 10 years. I mean, as you can see. But the vastness and the scope is so great that just like Nairobi has created a tremendous amount of things in microfinancing, in Kenya. So we are all aware of that. I think it was one of the examples that everybody has been taking worldwide. So what happens is that we always try to do. Painting is something that we do because our own pleasure to see, okay, we transform a village to become smart. And then hopefully that education to people will transform itself to the local government and panchayat. Because what happens now in India, every village gets about 800 rupees per village head per person, per person per year. So, for example, if you've got 1,000 people in the thing, they got 800,000 rupees a year, by which they can create a small road or they can improve upon it. And this goes year after year after year. Now, this happened over the last 5 to 7 years. So now the money is coming into the villages. And of course, initially there is corruption. And of course, now the council wants money for themselves. And all these things will go on. But eventually, these things will be sorted out because people will start complaining. And there are 250,000 panchayats in India right now, even though there are 600,000 villages. Because some villages are very, very small. So 2 villages will have a single panchayat, for example. So it's a question of controlling 250,000 villages to make them accountable of what is going on. So I think as the time goes by, what we can do is, of course, we can create a businesses. If the businesses fail, what can I do? We can only try. It's like anything else in the world, But if I've got tourism with hero cycles coming in, and a person is becoming a thing, or skill entrepreneurs with the Usha and the Singer machines, or farmer-driven corporations, or Hella coming in for automobile repairs, and digital technologies with education, etc. where people can get the internships from their homes through digital technologies. I think we've done a great feat in terms of transforming the economy of the villages.
Let me interrupt you. Thank you, Mahmood. Obviously, we'll looks like we will have further more meetings. I want to give chance to Surendra Bhai Patel from Kericho, right from place where he has never moved out from Kericho and has been a pillar of strength for all these activities. Surendra Bhai, tamare kain puchhu છે ભાઈ? Surendra Bhai, are you there?
I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Okay.
Surendra Bhai, are you there? Dinesh Bhai. Dinesh Bhai, tamare kain puchhu છે, please. I can't hear you, Dinesh Bhai. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, mine will be very simple. I just want to thank Anil Bhai and yourself for for this meeting. The amount of information that has been given is thought provoking, and we have a lot to digest and come back to you. Yeah, so definitely we look forward to the next meetings and take it up from there. Otherwise, thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you. Is there anybody else wants to say anything?
I can just say one little bit, unless somebody else wants to go. I've had 3 bites of the apple, but other people can eat first.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to double check with this is Nirupa's iPad. We've got Ashok Sachdev. Ashok, are you there? Hello, Ashok. Ashok, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, Ashok, we obviously haven't got you on a video, but if you've got anything to say, now's your chance, and then
Well, the information that's been given out is overwhelming, but there's a lot to think about. There would be vast difference between projects like this in India and in Kenya. The needs and everything will be fairly different. And I'm quite happy to have a word with Anil Bhai and Vinod Bhai and Mr. Charles to see how we can progress and how I can contribute. I'll be interested. And I think having one word, one-to-one would be good to start with.
So what we do is we create initially the research phase. For example, Ahmedabad, when we went to Gujarat right now, the Center for Entrepreneurship Development said, we wanted to create the skills and the entrepreneurs in every village. We don't want a smart village concept. We want only that much. Okay, if that's what you want. But in reality, it's everything, right? Eventually it's entrepreneurship and skill development. And we just had a meeting with the PRO at the Chief Minister's bungalow last Saturday. Right, the municipal elections are going on, so they don't have the time to talk to us. But they are going to get engaged pretty soon. And in Gujarat, we want to transform. I mean, just think of it. If we can just transform the healthcare by creating just a virtual assistant from your own house, you can talk to that person and understand what your issues are. Because there's a total lack of specialists and doctors in the world. And if you can talk to a doctor, which could be remote in a faraway land, even in America, where many volunteers are available right now to talk to that person and give them advice, it just transforms the entire healthcare in a way that has never been possible before. If we're talking about today, I mean, you know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So much of education, so many different people, one-to-one engagement is happening. In our own volunteer force, we've got 1,000 people right now who are volunteers in India, in the educational platform, who are businessmen, who talk to these students who want to come in. And each company has their own people too, who will talk on a virtual way. In IBM, for example, they'll talk on a virtual way with each student to educate them. So at the end of 3 to 6 months, 3 to 5 months, they get the certification. Now, the certificate is not important alone. We want to make sure that they communicate properly so that they are able to have a right communication, right interview with the companies, and a right interview and a right interaction with the company so that they are not looked as a third-rate employee. So these are important things that we try to do. It's not only education, it's a total transformation of a person and therefore of a society. And so what we can do in Kenya is to do the research on the ground of what is really required to be done, rather than imposing certain ideas that we've got and come from within.
I think there will be a community diagnosis,
Yes.
trying to figure out what the needs are and then make plans accordingly. Further, any more questions? Mukesh, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mukesh here.
Mukesh is my brother in UK.
I've just come out of my optometry clinic this evening. It's evening time here. And there were so many beautiful things that Anil has said today. And one thing I wanted to say was, some 20 years ago, I was involved and asked to provide some funds for help collecting some funds for an eye camp in India. I turned up on the scene. The idea was that people thought that I would be the chief laborer there, providing some services for the people there. I realized very quickly that that was a non-starter because I was going to be there today and gone tomorrow. I went around town recruiting people from the local community and empowering them to move forward. And that was on a parallel basis, but a very small thing. So I really understand what Dr. Anil's done, but he's taken it to a super high level. And I think I really want to be part of this and want to engage in more meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you. Anybody else wants to say anything, this stage? Charles, you want to have a last word, and then we'll
yes, yes, just one little thing is Kenya has created a micro finance platform which you send money. It's called M-Pesa. It has had transformative impact in our country. And also Kenya is a world leader in something called cooperatives and circles. Perhaps no other vehicle has been more instrumental in transforming poverty at the grassroots level than cooperatives. So if you look at Cooperative Bank in Kenya, it's the second largest bank in the country. It allows people to come together and invest into a vehicle, a meal, and create wealth. But it's being done at a very small scale. Now, what I'm seeing here is the opportunity to apply technology to already existing models. And there was a question about disbursement of funds. The key thing and what technology has done is something called disintermediation, which allows funds to come directly from the provider to the end user. There's an organization in California called Kiva, kiva.org. You may want to look it up. It's very powerful. And what it does is that it matches the need to the donor, and you kind of adopt that particular organization as your organization, and you transfer funds directly to them, and you monitor what's going on. The platform allows you to do that. It validates the authenticity of each individual, and the platform keeps everybody current. And so at a high level, this is kind of what I see smart villages doing. And then it's almost like you have a basic system, and then you have different plugins that, like you have a laptop or a computer, and you can plug all kinds of different things. People have a smartphone, you can use it to track their heart, you can use it as a camera. So it's the basic architecture that you have at the foundation, and then you plug in different pieces depending on what is needed in that particular situation, or what's a priority. And so I think, and the last thing I would leave with, Dr. Shah, is to think about making a documentary.
Okay.
A documentary. It would be very, very powerful. Not only would it tell your story, but it would be an eye opener. It would also encourage other people to see what one man. I think somebody talked about Indira Gandhi's talking about peace begins with me, or starting one person. And here's an idea for one individual that could go viral worldwide. And I think if a documentary were made showing the journey that you walked, it's very authentic. It's a concern of one individual and refusing to quit, because a lot of people of goodwill start this journey, but they find so many impediments along the way, they throw their hands up and they say, I'm done with this. I'm trying to help you, but you're creating all these hurdles. Because I suspect that you've been tripped up and come across so many barriers by the time you got here, but you still keep going. And so I think how you could enumerate that and just share that in a very compelling documentary, it would do two things. One, it would validate your story and let the world know, but you would then really create this movement where people now want to buy in, and then you'd have to have some mechanism where people have to filter how do you qualify. Before you even talk to us, get your government to apply, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that way, then you turn it on its head, where you've created this model, it's already proven in technology, talk about proof of concept, so you have that already. And you're now ready to
fantastic idea.
With for future thought.
Fantastic idea. Charles, I think that leads to another meeting between you and Dr. Shah and get a meeting going on. Charles has been a great friend of mine, and Charles was very ill to a point that he almost left. He was in the hospital. He has gone down to 70 pounds at UC Irvine. I got him down there. And at that time, his child was born. And it was something that brought us together. We tried to get even the Kenya ambassador locally that, okay, maybe we may have to move his remains to Kenya. And that was the point, And Charles has come a long way. He suffered from a severe autoimmune disease and has recovered very well. His wife is a nurse trained in Houston. And his son, Mutua, is a 16 or 17-year-old kid now. And probably, hopefully in a month or two, will come to visit me and stay with me for a couple of months. And probably he might also be involved in these projects if he wants to, I think with that, we'll wind up our meeting.
I will just say that Vinod saved my life, because when I was so sick, he told me what to do to go to a hospital and what to say. And it turned out that I went there literally before I was to expire, because shortly after I spoke with him, I was intubated. That's how severe my condition was. But he had the foresight to tell me where to go, first of all, because I had no medical history, and then also what to say when I get there. Those two things made all the difference. Without that, I assure you, I would not be here. And then my son was born when I was in the hospital, and Vinod found us the babysitter, because my wife had to run back and forth to take care of me in the hospital and take care of the baby. Vinod took a babysitter. So the first birthday of the child, Vinod was a guest of honor. So now this child is now 17. He's a brilliant scholar, and he's going to visit him this summer. And when he last saw him, was this little baby, and he's now going to go back to him a grown man. So this is a very, very deep relationship, and there's a lot more to it. But that's one of the reasons I'm here. When Vinod calls, I drop everything and come, because I literally owe my life to this wonderful man. I think of him as a brother, my big brother, and that's why I'm sitting here. And the other day invited me to listen to this group from Kericho, and we've been making a lot of fun about that since then. So thank you so much, Vinod. I am humbled to call you a friend.
That's very touching.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shah, everybody. I think that once our meeting, and we'll have some food for thought, and Dr. Shah, we're always in touch, and probably we'll reconvene one of these days again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.